shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway.
Boom. And then look at that.
And there
Good morning.
Look at that. Good morning.
Good morning. Look at that color scheme you got going, man. That's so beautiful back there today. That's gorgeous.
You know, Mikey, I like to live amongst a sea of earth tones.
Apparently. I like it, actually. You know what's funny is when we were actually filming at your place, I noticed it a few times. It's like I can't pick him out of the wall because he likes the human colored walls.
I like humanity. I like earth tone art.
No, you don't.
I do. I love humanity. It's people I can't stand.
Okay, gotcha. I was gonna say, you don't love humanity. Come on.
Oh, absolutely. It's an old quote from Linus on Peanuts. I love mankind. It's people I can't stand.
Yes, I understand. Mankind, right? You got to watch that these days. It has to be like.
Well, as Ram Dass put, you can. It's easy to love everyone if you look at their essence, because their essence is pure love. It's a part of you. We're all one, and they came down here to learn lessons. Now, you don't have to feel the same affection for the incarnation, because the essence chooses an incarnation that it needs to learn lessons. And some incarnations are beautiful, like Mother Teresa, and out there helping people, and some are hideous, disgusting pigs on the inside and outside, like Donald Trump. Just as an example, I'm not trying to be political.
Right, just as an example.
I mean, I meant no offense.
But what you're saying is that even that is important because they have to make a journey themselves.
They have to make that journey. You don't have to take part in that journey, and you don't have to even encourage that journey. You can say, "Wow, that's a heavy trip you got this lifetime. I don't want to be anywhere near it, but I love your essence, and I wish you well in the next plane of existence. And if I could help you, I would."
Gotcha. So that's that whole old soul business, right? Where we were young and people were like, "You have an old soul," just for people that basically were mature. If you had any sort of maturity, it was like, "You must be an old soul." It's like, no,
we're all old souls. It's a trip, Everybody's an old soul. We've all been here before. Is the thing, and we're all gonna come back again till we get it right and find out that we actually aren't all. We are one.
We aren't all. We are one. There were some people that really have, like, I noticed teenagers have a funny smell, and I just don't know. It's kind of weird just thinking that, that you are one with something that smells like, socks,
I've never had teenagers until I was one, and then I left that behind, and I don't know about this old sock smell.
I can tell you as a parent that especially Kathy, who'll come on later, she can probably attest to this because she's got boys. They smell funny. They smell funny. Like you walk in their room and it's just there's a smell and you're just like, that's a weird smell.
You see, all through my life, people have said to me, you're going to regret not being a father one day. And I'm 61 years old and I've never regretted it. And you just gave me one more excellent reason not to regret it. I've never walked into a room of teenagers, because I don't have any, and had smelled old socks or whatever the hideous odor is that you're describing.
Yeah, no.
You are making me feel better about not having kids, though.
I understand, because they definitely have a funny smell to them. It's even the girls have a funny smell. It's weird, It's just like, okay, you guys. I don't realize that you're same DNA supposedly. Similar DNA, but there's something. It's like, ooh, that's a funny
You don't think
smell.
they walk past your room and go, there's a funky old man smell in that room?
It very well could be. We've never really had the talk, so maybe we should go. Did you ever notice?
Maybe the talk will lead to better hygyene, and nobody will smell. You'll do your laundry more often.
I don't think it's a hygiene thing. It's weird because you think they're in the shower. I guess if it's a boy, you don't.
So
know
they're just emitting a teenage odor. That is a universal teenage odor.
I think that's what it is. I think it's just a smell.
Well, if we have some parents tuned in, or if you know a parent, let's investigate the teenage odor this week, and we'll talk about it next week. But
I can tell
that's
Shmoo's
a
not here yet because Shmoo would definitely have been commenting on this by
well,
now.
Shmoo's kids aren't teenagers yet, though. She's got little bitty
Oh.
kids, and you expect little bitty kids to have smelly rooms because they poop themselves sometimes. You know.
And to be honest, they actually smelled less when they were little. As they got older,
Like
they
my brother
started to smell.
Johnny has two girls, and now they're all grown up. You know, one's driving and one's like 10 or 12. But when they were little babies, the youngest one, Lila, finally got potty trained. And Johnny calls me and he's like in a great mood. I said, "Hey, what's up?" And he goes, "Lila went to the potty by herself. She's trained, man." And I went, "That's really good, I guess." And he went, "You have no idea. I have been changing other people's shit diapers for 6 years, and I don't have to anymore."
Lorelai seems to have a reason for this. She says hormones growing and hormones dying. So maybe that's all it is.
Ah,
It's
well,
just,
there you go. An explanation from Lorelai, who I just saw on the Chicago show. Uh, Hormones growing and hormones dying.
it could be
Well,
it. What do I know? I'm not a
I,
scientist.
I know when I was a teenager, my room was where hormones went to die.
Right? Yes, I totally understand. I think I was the same way. And my mom never really talked about the funky smell with me, so I don't know. Maybe it's not something you talk about. It's even worse. And it's like, kids, you really smell funny. You guys are taking showers,
See,
right?
that's more something you say to a friend than your kid.
Yeah, probably so.
It could
Probably
be
so.
awkward. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have kids. I don't know how much I would let them get
Well,
away with.
I thought it was cute that you don't know. Do you know the names of your nieces? I know
My
you don't know the
29
age.
nieces and nephews. Let me see if I can do them all. My brother George is the oldest, and his daughters are Elizabeth and Natasha, Bibbit and Tosh. Sandy's next, and her kids are Lena and Lee. Uh, I believe Bill's next, and his sons are Joey and Jared. My sister Louise is next, and she had Paul and Louise. Then there's my sister Nani, who had Natalie and Chris. We're up to 11. My brother Andrew, who passed away at 54, like me, was a musician and had no children, and I love him for that. My brother Joe has 3: Joseph, Adrian, and Margaret. My sister Margaret has her daughter Michelle, her son Sam, Danny, John. I hope I'm
You guys
not
are like
leaving
a
anybody.
plague out there. It's crazy,
We're
like the
up to
Sanchez plague.
we're up to 13, and Johnny has 2. That's the 20. We're up to 20. I feel like I missed some. Oh, that's a bummer. I hope. Who did I miss? Johnny's got 2. Margaret's got 1,
Uh-oh,
2.
I definitely caused some trouble here.
Yeah, because I thought there was 29. Maybe I've just been lying all these years. I'm terrible with numbers. I'm shit with numbers. But I know all my nieces and nephews, man. I had a rule when they were growing up. I didn't want to hold babies. They say, "You hold my baby?" No. You look at my guitar, it's beating the shit, and I love that more than anything in the world. So don't let
Right.
me hold your baby. Bad things will happen. But I had a rule. I would hang out with them after they turned drinking age. So at the time that a lot of them were turning drinking age, Cowboy Mouth was really popular. So, I got to be really good friends with my nephew Paul, who went to school at the University of Lafayette, and my nephew Lee, who went to Texas A&M. Because although I was boring old Uncle Paul, they would still show up, get in the show for free, have a girl with them to impress that they could bring backstage to meet the band, and drink for free. It was a good deal. My niece Louise, who's a responsible nurse and a member of society and kids of her own, she would show up at the House of Blues with girlfriends at the security entrance, drunk and demanding to see her uncle. And so I have to go down and tell security to let her by, and they're like, "She's tough, man." So, and same thing with my other nieces and nephews. I hung out with them when they were old enough to talk truth with, and as a result, I think they all like me. Because I never reprimanded them. I never gave them shit when they were young.
You were the cool
I just
uncle.
played a little.
He plays in a rock band.
I played guitar when I came by the house, if I came by.
Interesting, Uncle Paul. Um, I just
I
had a
am
thought
Uncle
about.
Paul.
Yeah, I just had a thought. Like it reminded me of like Goodfellas. How many of those kids are named Paul? And how many of the girls are named
Yeah,
Mary?
I'm not that admired.
Not that. You just mentioned a couple of Pauls. I was like going, oh my God, it's like Goodfellas. They're all named, Paul or some other Catholic name, Michael or Paul or something.
No. Yes, sir. That was happenstance. I'm sure. I'm liked, but I'm not well liked.
Gotcha. So not a lot of Pauls in the.
No, I think the same could be said of the musical community. I'm liked, but I'm not well liked.
Not well liked. So speaking of music, I guess we're back to music, right? We're playing.
We don't do a lot of music on the show. We bullshit more than we talk about music. I did,
Is there anything going on?
I had a good voice lesson yesterday, and my voice teacher was very encouraging in that I explained. He said, "Well, how was the weekend?" And I said, "Well, I sang really well, so well that people were saying, wow, that's the best you sounded." But I also had some struggles on the bigger show with like the 5,000 person festival. I got a little bit, I pushed harder. I felt like you had to get out there more. And he went, "Well, you took that lesson from it, right?" And I went, "Yeah, but I still tend to remember the bad things more than the good." And he goes, "Well, stop." He's like, people are telling you sound good, say thank you and feel good about it. They say you sound better, say thank you and let that soak in. Allow yourself to accept that you're better and you're going to be better. And stop. As my friend Sonia Tetlow wrote in her song Lonely Street, give yourself the break you'd offer anyone else.
I like it. Sonia, have you talked to her recently?
Not too recently, although we've stayed in touch throughout the pandemic. Her and her wife Connie and me and Allison have done Zoom wine calls. We're kind of due one, I think. But she's also very busy. She works for the CDC as she's getting her PhD from Emory. And most of the work these days is online. And while that sounds great to be able to work from home, in the instance of college, it's a little bit more difficult. Some of the things, you wish you could have interface, you wish you could be in the room with your fellow classmates and teacher to have a discourse, right, which is, as you know, difficult on Zoom. But she's doing great. She's happy. The house looks good. They're in love. She still plays a little music here and there. She's got a great job with the CDC.
I think every guy friend of mine that I know that's been locked into this Zoom thing at some point has a story about how they just tried to jump on a Zoom call while they were still, dressed in their underwear or whatever, and at some point during the Zoom call they have to get up for something and decide not to get up. It's like, they just
I really early on in this method of communication, I discovered the underwear thing early on.
That it's a trap. Don't do it.
It's a trap. You have to, most men walk around the house in their boxers, as is our wont. But when you're doing a call, it's best to put on a pair of shorts at least, so that should I say need to go get a cup of coffee, you don't literally see my ass.
Right. Because and they all have the same story. At some point, they need to grab something, or, they say like, yeah, well, I guess I'm gonna wait. I'm just not gonna get that.
You can't get up. You don't have any pants on. You gotta stay where you are. The only dignified part of yourself is the top. Right. For a long time they were doing auditions because I still audition for small parts, whatever. And you're doing them virtually, and they're like, "Oh, just from the chest up." I'm like, "Great." And then they started with, "We want a whole body shot," and now I got to put pants on. It's better enough I'm auditioning because they don't pay you to audition. It's, I'm a musician. If somebody says, "I'd like you to play some songs," they generally offer some money, even if it's an insultingly low amount of money. They generally offer some money when they say, "I'd like you to play some songs." With auditions, they say, "We'd like you to memorize some lines and show us how you act. We're not going to pay you, and we probably won't hire you."
By the way, I'm sorry to yes, that's all true. Did you see Amy kind of come in and woman-splain us about how we can just turn off the video?
What video?
If we wanted to. Yeah, on the Zoom call. Apparently there's a button that you could press to turn off the video, which I guess you're right, Amy, but we didn't think of that. I mean, that sounds
Amy's always trying to be helpful. Don't give her attitude. She's got coffee mugs for us.
She does have coffee mugs for us. I'm giving her a hard time. Come on. She didn't come say hi. She was there.
Yeah, she actually wrote to me and said she wished she'd have known that was you because she would have brought you the coffee mugs.
Duh. See? Yeah, I guess, But I
mean,
you
didn't know she was going to see
Cowboy Cloth,
and she didn't know you were mixing Cowboy Cloth. So it's no one's fault.
It's nobody's fault.
There's no blame to lay. There's no animosity to have.
And I guess you're right, Amy. We could turn off the video, but that just seems difficult and weird. I don't know. And how do you explain to everybody, hey, I'm turning off my video, and then they immediately assume that you're in your underwear? I mean, it's a giveaway.
You know, I would just love if they could turn the button back on and catch me just mid-naked snoopy dance.
Right, so they could control your button.
Naked and dances.
Yes. Oh, man, my coffee's almost gone. This is going to be a terrible day. I can already tell this is going to be a terrible day.
Well, that's a terrible way to look at it, man.
You think? And I need to Ram Dass up a little bit?
If you say it's going to be a terrible day, well, what is it? Argue for your limitations long enough, and sure enough, they're yours.
Argue for your limitations long enough, and sure enough, they're yours. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the weed or something. I'm not sure what that meant. Oh, you turned the mic off too. Yeah.
Which mic? Guarantee it's mine.
No, the microphone apparently for the video. Your sister jumped in to help too. So the girls are explaining to us how to work a Zoom call. Oh, they're giving advice on the whole the Zoom thing. Yeah, you know, the Zoom thing's tough. It's not like this. We're practically having a conversation. There's a little bit of you have to stop, but you hear somebody talking and breaking through, so you know you have to stop. In Zoom, somebody else starts talking, and boom, you're out. Yeah, you're gone. It switches to them, which is fine. And then you make noise accidentally, and it switches back to you while you're trying to get up in your underwear.
Yeah.
And go, yeah. So you're like, hey, I'm safe for a minute. Oh, no, I'm not. No,
I'm not.
I'm toast. Have you seen anything recently in the like movie stuff? I mean, we haven't talked for a week and a half. Really, I guess.
I did watch the second episode of What If, but we're going to save that for Luis on Friday. Mostly, I've been trying to work on the voice and accepting the fact that it's time to sort of get back to work, book gigs, and really test what I've learned and really embrace what I've learned, so that I can return to singing and hopefully, you know, be a better singer than I was.
I'm sure that's gonna be easy. You know, just moving forward, we get better in life. Everything gets better. That's all. You know, you might be a better singer with a different voice. Who knows?
The great British actor Edmund Kean said on his deathbed, "Dying is easy. Comedy is hard."
Gotcha. So
that's me in singing.
That's you in singing? Yeah. Yeah. Singing's easy.
Just for the moment.
I totally understand. I don't know what the heck I got going on. I'm trying to figure it out personally. I just, you know, I don't have any energy. I'm ready for this thing to be over.
Oh God, it's so hard to it's hard to get my energy up for even the simplest things like returning emails and like looking for gigs was the first time in months I've even looked, and it was just like such a fucking chore to think about it.
Yeah,
you know. Because you don't know what's going to happen. I had to book plane flights for the tour I'm doing with Chris, my dear friend, Chris Joseph, in the Northeast, to his book tour for Life is a Ride, with me coming along to play a short set of Life is a Ride songs. And I had put off booking the flight. I mean, my mind wouldn't accept that this is really going to happen. It was like the same thing with Chicago flights. Up until the Monday before, I was thinking, I can't sing. There's a pandemic. There's no way I'm going. And then I sang, and I put on my mask and figured I'm vaccinated. And if the moron next to me isn't, then one less bell to answer, one less day to try.
It's kind of where I am, too, with the vaccination thing. At this point, I'm kind of trying to just go, you know what? You know, it is, I'm supposed to be good. What can I do? I'm supposed to be good. I'm going to wear my mask and try to be good.
I'm still going to wear my mask, and I'm still going to stay away from packed crowds when I can. And like for the festival I played in Oshkosh, normally I would go out and I would enjoy the band. I've seen some great bands over the years that I've opened for. Lucas Nelson, you know, Brian Setzer,
Lucas Nelson was great. My goodness.
Oh, he's an amazing player. Just an amazing player.
Tower
of Power was amazing. And this band playing that we opened for they were called J.J. Gray and Mofro. I'd never heard of them, but the young people loved them, and they had a really great audience that was really good to us. So I thought out and watch, and then I looked and I was like, no way, I'm going to go stand in thousands of people. I don't even want to stand in tens of people right now.
You know, My wife went and saw the Better Than Ezra show that I did a few weeks back, and she made it through. You know, it was packed. It was sold out.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
Saw the picture.
Yeah. So, but she did feel weird. You know, she came home saying that, you know, it still was weird to be around that many people and that close to that many people.
Yeah.
She kept bringing, you know, she was drinking, but she wore a mask, and she'd like lift her mask up a little bit and
Right, of course,
and bring it down. Well, you know, a lot of people take that as a chance to not have to wear the mask. Like, hey, I'm drinking. I got a beer in my
drinking.
hands. Right.
The alcohol will kill the COVID.
Probably will. Who knows? I don't know. What do I know? I'm not a scientist.
I was being ironic. Please don't think alcohol will kill COVID. Please don't drink. Please don't take animal sedatives or whatever the fuck they're doing to avoid. We'll believe animal science, and we'll take some of this horse pill. We just won't believe man science.
Griff pointed out something very, very funny to me. Pfizer actually makes Viagra, apparently, and you know, that doesn't seem to be an issue for a lot of those same fellas who refuse to get the vaccine. They seem like they're probably, you know, users of the old Viagra thing.
If you've ever eaten Spam, you've done more disgustingness to your body than.
And I have fried Spam. Come on, man! I remember back. My grandpa used to make that stuff. I thought it was the bomb.
I guarantee you, a lot of the non-vaxxers ate some Spam in their life. And they didn't question where that shit came from. They just went, yummy, yummy, good for the tummy. Take the vaccine.
Take the vaccine. What the heck are we going to do? At this point, I've given up. I don't care anymore. I really don't. I'm like, whatever.
Well, you and I have care. We've actually, we've talked to people, friends and fans who have said, wow, you guys really went off on the vaccine. And it's not like I don't care anymore, but I've stopped expecting the level of intelligence of the mass stupids to raise. They've exhibited it. They've spent now, and it's not just Trump's fault. Somewhere in the 80s, intellectuals became seen as communist and weak, and being smart was wrong. So a bunch of people thought, oh, that's easier than going to college and learning shit. I'll just stay a dumb fuck and spout whatever this demagogue in front of me is saying. And I don't know how that rant started. But anyway, what I think is, like, you know, when somebody says, well, it's my body, my choice. And I'm like, well, it's not. You know, it's your body, but your choice affects the people you live with, your friends, the people you randomly bump into in the course of your workday, the people that you randomly bump into when you go out to grab a bite to eat. It affects everybody. Only you're too incredibly narcissistic to realize that what you do affects other people.
Right. Yeah, because
that would be as nice as I could be there, Mike. Yeah. Not once did I use the word.
That was actually pretty nice. My wife was trying to tell me some stories last night of some things that are happening in Alabama and that, and I was like, I couldn't drum up the emotional fortitude to care. You know, yeah, I heard some kids died, and I get it. I'm sorry, it's terrible.
Well, there's a commercial on, and I know the commercial is aimed at getting the people, the undecideds, but it's a woman sitting there in a nurse outfit, and she's a little on the hefty side, which the heftier people are more prone to this disease. And she say, well, I just didn't get the vaccine at first because, you know, I read the research from the FDA, but I also read some stuff online, and I just thought, are we going to promote dumb shitism? Right. And she's like, fine. So finally, I realized I had to get the vaccine. I thought, and in the ensuing 9 months, your unvaccinated ass was treating people medically.
Right. This is great. Great news. Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
I lost my thought, but yeah. Anyway.
And the people that say the government can't make you do, and I'm like, the government makes you wear seatbelts. Nobody complains. You know.
They won't let you drive drunk. Nobody complains. You know.
Yeah. And of course, Walt Handelsman, the great cartoonist, his cartoon, the first panel is, I'm not taking that vaccine. It's not FDA approved. And then it's FDA approved. I'm supposed to trust the FDA?
Right. I don't trust them. Oh my God, you know. Yeah, now that it's FDA approved, I'm guessing that was really so they could start mandating things and and stuff.
I think it's so they can mandate it legally and get it to children as well. I know that I'm about due for a booster shot, so
I think I am too.
When it's time, going.
Apparently, I got it in April, and even Pfizer's own internal numbers.
We're like, Mike,
60.
We're like those boring old fucks that we said we'd never be. Now we used to talk about adventures and rock and roll, and the last couple of shows have been all about death and COVID and disease. I'm done with it, for the love of God.
We're done with it. Yes, I agree. The problem is I don't have anything to talk. We got to mention. I get bombarded.
We got to mention Charlie Watts.
Oh, duh! What the hell, Charlie Watts? I mean,
come on.
Now he wasn't going to be on that tour anyway, right? Because I started thinking, well, I guess the Stones wouldn't have played anyway. But
he had already pulled out of the tour for health reasons.
Right. So it wouldn't have made a difference on the Jazz Fest thing. But I mean, how do you replace Charlie Watts?
In my opinion, he and Ringo, two of the greatest drummers in rock and roll ever produced, and their styles were very different. Ringo used to joke that Charlie Watts was the only drummer in rock and roll that played less fills than him.
Well, have you ever heard Carlo do his Charlie Watts thing where he's just, oh my God. I mean, Carlo can do him. Carlo could be a good replacement for him because he could pull it off. And
then there's the great Charlie Watts story, because the Stones were known for their flamboyance, their drunken escapades, their, whatever. And so they're in a hotel in Amsterdam, and they're discussing Mick's solo career. It's early 80s, and he's blasting off on MTV. And they're talking about maybe the Stones should break up. And Charlie ventures an opinion. And Mick says, I don't know why you should care anyway. You're just my drummer. And Charlie leaves the meeting. Well, Mick and Keith proceed to stay in the bar and get drunk. And Mick goes back to his room, and they're sitting in there having a drink. And he gets on the phone, drunkenly rants to Charlie, where's my fucking drummer? And Charlie, who was asleep, gets out of bed, puts on one of his best Savile Row suits, has a shave, puts on some cologne, some nice shoes, walks down, knocks on Mick's door. Mick opens it. He pushes Keith aside and punches Mick in the face and says, never call me your fucking drummer again. You're my fucking singer.
Ooh, no shit. I never heard of that story. So did they not like each other, or was that just a moment?
It was, probably Charlie just got tired of his shit. Charlie wasn't down in the bar carousing with women and, getting so drunk he's going to call somebody at 3 a.m. and fuck with him. He was in bed sleeping.
You motherfuckers. But I like the fact that he took all that time to get all dressed up nice and everything. Not to mention, wasn't he the only one who wasn't like a maniac drug addict?
Right.
Out of all of them?
Right. Well, he was, in his side band, he had a big swing band, big band swing band.
I did not know that.
He loved jazz,
Interesting.
But of course, their careers were at a time when the rock and roll excesses weren't just part of it; they were expected and celebrated.
Right.
The great story about Keith Moon driving up to the hotel who was staying in London in his Aston Martin, and he drives through the window of the hotel, pulls up to the front desk, and goes, "I'd like my key, please."
Right. Yes. And it just got worse as it went in through the 80s, right? The 80s. By the time you got through the 80s,
well, you see, it was more, I think, alcohol and speed and that kind of stuff, pills in the 60s. In the 80s, they were in the 70s. They found cocaine.
Right. In the 70s,
many of them really liked.
Yeah, the stories about Fleetwood Mac and their cocaine use are pretty...
Or beyond belief. Like, you can't even talk about them on a radio show.
Yeah,
it's too graphic shit there.
Yeah, there was a lot of staying up for like a month straight kind of things,
Oh, I'm talking... I'll tell you when we're done with the show, the ones I heard is,
So he just said he was married to his wife since 1963?
Yes, they did say that on the news. Married to the same woman his whole career.
No
he was
kidding.
a classy guy. He was quiet and went his own way.
Good drummer. Really good drummer.
Great drummer. Great. You know what? Rock and roll, the great rock and roll, it's not about how fucking technically great you can play. In fact, being a technically great player can be a hindrance to playing great rock and roll. It's a primitive form of music invented by children who couldn't play well so that they could express themselves on a primal level. That's some heavy shit, man.
Yeah.
And the people took that into adulthood, who stayed primitive. You can't stay primitive because you naturally get better, but in your thought process, you're not looking for the more nuanced thing. You're looking still for that punch to the gut. You're looking still to make that person feel it, whether it's passion or love or anger, to feel it in their heart right down to their gut. And, that's, to me, is rock and roll. Is as two of the greats said, Pete Townsend said, rock and roll won't help you forget your troubles, but it'll help you dance all over them.
Right.
And Keith Richards said, rock and roll starts and ends in the crotch.
Right. I was just thinking about these young, because I've already, you sort of figure that once you get old past a certain age, you're really not writing rock and roll anymore. Now you're writing something else, right? You're writing something for a different.
Well, rock and roll is kind of limiting. I mean, you have to really love rock and roll to want to write it your whole career. And I loved rock and roll, but not to that degree. I loved folk singers, and I loved Sinatra, and I loved Broadway songs when I was young. I loved all kinds of stuff. So throughout my career, I've tried to make each record, that my solo record's different than the one before, and I've tried to stretch musically, and but I mean, I do love what rock and roll offers. It's primitive, and it hits you right in the chest.
And you do have certain things that lend themselves to it.
I know how to rock. Don't get me wrong. I can rock like a motherfucker.
I Can't Stand You Now is one of the ones that comes out that, you wrote that much later in your life, but it's definitely got the rock and roll premise of.
I Can't Stand You Now I wrote in '92 before I got married to my second ex-wife. And she had made me angry to the point where I couldn't speak, and I picked up the guitar, and that whole song came out in one sitting.
Right.
So I should have followed my own advice, listened to my own song, and go, this crazy woman makes you nuts, you shouldn't marry her.
No, but that's not the way emotion works that way, right?
No, love and pheromones and all kinds of chemicals come into play, and then you do it.
Well, I guess we have a guest today, guys. We have a friend of mine that I went to school with, and we're trying to decide. I guess we can play a video.
It's good time. I know.
It's 9:30.
It's almost 9:40.
Is it? My clock is all fucked up. All right, so
it's 9:36 by satellite time.
9:36. So we have to bring her out so she can actually liven this conversation.
Yeah, she's been sitting there listening to our nonsense.
Yeah, as we talk about being old men and stuff. Let me bring her out and say hello. And then at the end of the show, I'll go ahead and play. We actually did a tune with her. Let me see if I got her out. There she is.
There she is.
Good morning. Hi.
Kat.
Good morning.
Coming to us from Chicago, Illinois, one of my favorite cities in the entire world.
And you were just up here, right?
Yeah, I was just there this weekend. Played Fitzgerald's, had a wonderful time, saw some friends that I love dearly up there. I'm just noticing y'all went to high school together, and if Mikey let his hair down from his ponytail, y'all would look a lot alike right now.
Yeah, maybe my beard. Her beard isn't as nice as mine, but
male and female versions. Literally, I wasn't going to suggest that. She's obviously a woman, and I'm pretty sure you're a man.
That's debatable.
So we actually went to middle school together. We met in 7th grade at Livingston.
Wow.
Did we? I thought you didn't go to Schaumburg? You didn't go to Schaumburg? No. I have a terrible memory. I have a terrible memory. 7th grade.
So was he the cool hippie kid in 7th grade too?
Yeah, no, he was. He wasn't one of these kids that smelled. Speaking of, kids who smell. and it's hard to smell good in the hot summer months of New Orleans, in a school that probably didn't have AC.
It didn't, right? We didn't have any AC.
I don't know. I don't think it did.
I don't think we did. No, they just had a lot of windows, like a lot of windows.
Yeah.
Y'all were in Slidell in the 70s. They didn't really care.
It was New Orleans East, which might as well have been Slidell.
New Orleans East.
Okay. Well, they really didn't care about New Orleans East in the 70s or now.
Right. New Orleans East it was always like, what are you guys doing out there? You're across that water. We don't care about you.
That's too far away. It's hot. We can't be bothered.
But
Mike was much the same as he is now, one of these guys who knows a little bit about everything and could just shoot the shit with anyone, really.
That's Mikey, all right.
I did
And
enjoy.
how long have you been up in Chicago?
For about 21 years now.
Ah,
21
wow, that's
years.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Although 21 winters in Chicago, I think I would have begged for mercy by now.
Yeah. Well, I just bought a house in New Orleans because I want to start coming home in the
I
winters.
don't blame you. I've gone up there
Yeah.
and played in the winter. But to me, winter in Chicago is like May. You know, I'll get a gig up there in May, and I'm going to be showing up with a jacket on. And my Chicago friends are going to laugh their asses off at me, but I'm going to be really glad I got that jacket on because it can snow in May.
It could snow in May.
Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, Mike, you were supposed to tell me where he was playing Saturday night. I like to come to shows and like empty my wallet out to the musicians and stuff. But
Well,
I feel like
you know
that was
what?
a
I
missed
would have liked to have
opportunity,
had you
right?
out to the shows. I would have liked to have you out to the show so I could have asked you to get up and do one of your songs.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you'll be back.
That's who I am. That's
Please.
who I am. If I find out there's a fellow songwriter out there, and I played Pittsburgh at a winery, and this woman comes up. She says, "I'm a friend," and she mentions a friend's name back in New Orleans. I go, "Great, any friend of his is a friend of mine." And I said, "What do you do?" She goes, I'm a blues singer." I said, "Well, great. Why don't you sing in the second set?" And she starts laughing. She goes, "That's funny. You're cute." I'm like, "Hey, singers sing. You want to do it, baby?" And then she got up and blew the room away, man. She's a great blues singer. Leanne Binder from Ohio.
Wow. Love that.
But, you know,
I love
if
the
they feel like they...
unpredictability of the show, you know?
I do too. I mean, part of the reason that I do it is to have a bit of an unpredictable show. But set lists, if you're too ready to play, then sometimes the set's too smooth. And, you know, like I was making a record with my band, and we had been working on this soundtrack album for this musical I'd written for a year and a half. The arranger is a brilliant guy who just won a Grammy named Matt Perrine. And his arrangements were very difficult, very intense, and he was the band leader. And it was a year and a half of real hard concentration for me as producer and songwriter. And so one day, we had a free day in the studio where Matt couldn't make it, and we weren't going to do 9 Lives. And I just said to my band, "Hey, we're going to record an album tomorrow, so be here at like 10. And they all just freaked out. They're like, "What songs?" I'm like, "The songs we've been playing for the last 6 months. Just show up. We're going to make a record in one day. Just show up." So they were not happy with me, and they show up, and they're all nervous. And I have it set up so we can play live, and I'm in the vocal booth. And after the first song, Matt, the bass player, says, "Hey, Paul, I had a mistake on the second verse." I said, "Great, moving on." After the second song, the drummer says, "Hey, man, I had a little bit of a slip in the bridge." And I was like, "Fantastic, moving on." And the third song was "Light It on Fire," which I wrote before Cowboy Mouth, and they still do it. And so I kind of wanted to reclaim it as a rock song. And we did it. And Matt and Eric, the drummer, looked at each other across the room. They nodded. They got away from their mics so I couldn't hear them talk. And then they went back to their mics, and Matt pointed to Eric, and Eric said, "Hey, Paul, Matt and I talked about it, and he had a mistake in the third verse. I had a mistake in the second verse. We really need to do this one over." And I waited a few seconds, and then I hit the talk back, and I said, "All right, we'll do it again, but somebody better make a fucking mistake. This is rock and roll."
we're not having any perfection here. Come on, you got to keep.
I don't want perfection.
We need fuck ups, right? She's looking at you like, I don't know about all of this mistake stuff.
Fuck ups is art, man.
No,
Fuck ups
are you
is art.
kidding me? Right.
Lennon singing the wrong lyrics with his own double track is beautiful to me.
He couldn't do it right. Well, that was the thing, right? He couldn't do it, so they created that flanging trick because
I'm not talking about that. If you listen to old Beatle records, especially the early ones, they always double tracked a lot of stuff. And there are verses where he's singing the first verse over the third verse. And you can hear it's not the same words, but yeah, fuck it, I did it. Move on.
Yeah, he
You know, that's
doing
like, that reminds me of Elvis. He famously, when he performed live, would mess up "Are You Lonesome Tonight?" I mean, how many times has he done that? And he just would get emotional, and weird stuff would come out. But that is why people went and paid money to see him, because that was the gold.
Well, his voice was the gold. Those bits of spontaneity were a result of heroic doses of drugs. Truly heroic amounts of drugs the man was on. tremendous Elvis fan. I mean, to me, he's the king, always will be. The Sun Sessions are as perfect a rock and roll record as will ever be made. And much like Elvis, I begrudgingly watch his movies, just as he begrudgingly acted in them. But he was a one of a kind. He was. I was in Memphis the morning he died. I was playing in the drum and bugle corps, music around the country. I was 16, and they had pulled over at a truck stop for the driver to get some coffee, and it was all over the CB radios. Elvis got taken to the hospital, ambulance. Elvis is dead. It came like within a half hour, and I remember it was like 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning, and we were in this McDonald's at this truck stop, and it was traveling with a bunch of teenagers playing music. And I remember just looking around. Everybody was laughing and talking like life was normal, and I was just thinking, like, how can they laugh when Elvis just died?
Bill Davis once said that Elvis didn't actually die; he ascended. So, I
Well,
don't
that's
know.
in Men in Black. The very first Men in Black with Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. He's driving the car and he puts it in 8-track, and Will Smith goes, "Really, 8-track?" And it's Elvis, and he looks at him. He goes, "You know Elvis is dead." And Tommy Lee Jones goes, "Elvis ain't dead. He just went home."
Right. He ascended. He's not dead. We used to do these things with Dash all the time where you'd go and there'd just be like a million. I don't know. They at the time, I mean, what was it, 25, 30 years ago? I don't know if they still do it, but, certain times of the year, there would be these huge Elvis get togethers. And it seems like we were always playing at these dang things. And we'd have.
We all were great for that. There was a band for that. So, Lisa, where do you play in Chicago? Let's talk about your Chicago adventures.
Yes.
Cat.
So I live just north of the city in Glenview. So I play
Glenview.
around Glenview. Highwood, have you ever played in Highwood? That's a huge music town.
I haven't played Highwood. I've played Joliet and Evanston. And of course,
Yeah.
Gerald's is not officially in Chicago, it's in Berwyn. But I've played
Right.
so many places in Chicago over the years. Our first place in '92, when I played there with the Mouth, was a joint called Lounge Acts. And it was a basement club that did a lot of punk rock. It was across from the theater where Dillinger got killed. And we played the Cubby Bear, the House of Blues. We used to sell out was it the Riviera's Club, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love Chicago. We've played it in every fashion we could possibly play that sucker.
But by the way, are you a baseball
Yeah,
fan
and
now that
that's
you're
one of
there?
the things I love.
Okay, sorry, you were going to say.
I went to my first game in 2 years on Sunday.
So are you a Cubs
But
fan or a
prior to
White
that,
Sox?
living in Chicago, did that make you a baseball fan?
Living in Chicago, I really do try to follow it because, like Mike, I try to know a little bit about a lot of things, but I think people see right through the act. I kind of like the scene. I do like the scene of games, live games.
Right.
So what brought you to Chicago, and how did you first get your first gigs and start making a way through Chicago? It's a lot of great music up there and a lot of great players.
Totally. I came here for a job. I'm a writer. I'm freelance now for newspapers and magazines, but that's what brought me here originally. I was
Nice.
in Amsterdam before that for 4 years in grad school. And man, I should have played music there because Amsterdam is another one of these cities like New Orleans and Chicago that they love artists. They love individuals expressing themselves, and there's a
Were you,
lot of music there. I
were
regret
you
not
just too
playing when I was there.
busy? Were you just too busy while you were there and didn't have time to play, or is there something you didn't think of?
Yeah, I was studying and yeah.
Ah,
But anyway, I came to Chicago and honestly, I didn't play for a long time still, just doing the work thing. And my husband gave me a class, a gift certificate to take a class at the Old Town School of Folk Music. Did
nice.
that, and I started meeting musicians, and before you know it, we branched off and started playing, and it was great. It was a great way to meet
Oh,
people.
that is a great
You probably
story.
played there, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
No, I've always wanted to play there, and I never have. It's if you've played folk music ever in your life, there's a few places you've heard of. You've heard of McCabe's, you've heard of Gertie's Folk City,
Yeah.
and you've heard of the Old Tap City Folk School. And I've always wanted to play there, and so I think as far as an entrance into Chicago, that's like storybook.
When did you start playing
Yeah,
music? Like at what
yeah.
age? Because I don't remember you playing in school, and singing in school.
Um, I, yeah, I played actually seventh and eighth grade. My best friend, Kathleen, and she and I would bring my guitar to school, and one of our teachers at Livingston would let me keep my guitar in his classroom. And then instead of going out and running on the playground, we would go to his room after lunch and play. And
No kidding.
we had a couple of little concerts there. We played
Do I
we
just not
played at
remember this, or what happened?
you don't remember.
That's
No.
what. Wow, that must
Well,
be.
Mike,
Okay,
let's face
let me see if you remember this. Let me see if you remember this. Our outfits were sailor outfits because we were called High Tide, and we had sailor hats. Now, tell me what middle schooler had the nerve to dress like that? Little white culottes.
You know,
Remember culottes?
Kat, I
Sailor
might have
shirt.
the answer here.
Playing my
In
guitar.
in order for him to remember you as a friend, he may have blocked out that memory.
That is true. Yeah,
Because didn't
It's
you
not
live? We
often
lived
that
in
I
the
think
same
about that.
area, right? We lived off of Haynes.
Yeah.
Didn't you live? Yeah, right. 'Cause
I
we
mean,
had to
at
catch the
first I was
bus.
going, I was going to blame it on the amount of brain cells you've damaged between seventh grade and now. But I heard the full story. I just thought, no, he really likes this girl. He blocked that out so he could stay friends with her.
yeah. Bless you, Mike. That's true. Yeah, but we wrote originals. Don't you remember Bitter Pill? That was our big hit in junior high school.
No, I
If
don't.
it really
My
makes you
God.
happy, then I'll do it for you, honey. No matter if it takes a year or costs a lot of money. For I truly love you, darling, and I know I always will. But no matter if you make me swallow a very bitter pill.
That
No.
is very good for seventh grade.
I mean,
And I once
very,
again, I
very
think he
Beatlesque.
blocked that out.
Yes.
He blocked that out of sheer jealousy.
Probably.
Oh, yes, yes.
So I'm trying to remember what I was doing at the time. I mean, gosh, seventh grade is so
Playing heavy
weird.
metal.
Yeah. No, I wasn't playing music yet. I was like, I didn't start
really?
playing music till I was about 14 or 15.
Oh, wow.
I was a jock kind of. I played a little bit of basketball. I enjoyed
Wait.
sports and
Can't
stuff.
picture.
Yeah, I enjoyed sports. And I remember like enjoying, like I just started pushing because we did a lot of reading in Livingston, and I remember Kimberly Parker had inspired me to read and write and stuff. So I remember trying to write stories and things like that. But no, I didn't get into music until the doctor told me I couldn't do sports. That's when I was like, oh, guess I'll play music then. But
Well,
were
then
you
I
gonna say,
didn't even
Kat?
know you played music either. But our paths then crossed again when we both started working at the House of Blues in New Orleans, and he was, the sound guy, and then I learned that he had this amazing career playing music, and I was like, how come I didn't know about that?
and I don't
he's
know how
really
really
great.
it was, but
The Beaten Path is, I've always said Beaten Path is one of the greatest bands to ever come out of New Orleans, and truly one of the greatest undiscovered bands that I've heard out there anywhere.
I appreciate it, Paul. It's very kind of you.
Well, I love you. So, Kat, you've gone to the old school for your lessons and your meetings, and where's your first gigs? Is it there, or is it?
No, it's just dive bars in around Chicago, which I love because every New Orleanian loves dive bars, right? So
Of course,
I'm very
I
at home
smiled when
there.
you said it.
Yeah. So and it wasn't really folk. I wouldn't say it was folk music. It was more like I like funky roots meet psychedelic soul, something like that. That's my sort of influence my tastes. Groovy bands, psychedelic bands. I like mixing all that into like a musical gumbo. We're from New Orleans. We like to mix things up and see what happens.
Very
Do you play
cool.
anything besides guitar? Like, are you a guitar player to write songs, or do you like really practice scales and all of that crazy stuff, playing leads, or?
Mainly to write songs. And if I play, I usually play the rhythm stuff when I play with bands, and yeah, which is fine because I usually sing and I can't do like
Yeah,
too many
that's
things
fine
at
with me.
once.
I didn't pick up the guitar so I could learn to be a great guitar player. I picked it up so I'd have something to accompany myself singing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the people I like are like, I love Nancy Griffith, and I love Bob Dylan. I love people that get through the song often without a solo.
Yeah, when I
I
started,
don't.
I started
Just,
trying to be a
just
guitar player first, and then eventually was like, you know what? I think I want to try to sing some, because I would write songs and then the guy would start singing it and I'd be like, this is not what I had in mind.
Ah,
So but my lyrics at the beginning, me and Paul have talked about this before. I had to like go to lyric boot camp with Paul, as he would like, look at my stuff and go, yeah, this is not really good, Mike. Maybe you
I
should
was quite
consider.
curmudgeonly.
Yeah, maybe you should consider writing something that you understand. So at some point, I had crossed over the line where he was like, "All right, you're getting somewhere. This is I get this. I understand this. This makes sense to me." But early on, I don't even know what it was like. I was like, "Yeah, Mick Jagger. What is he saying, really?" I didn't realize
Well,
he
it's
was
really
saying a
like when
lot.
most people start writing lyrics that don't know how to do it or feel like they don't know how to do it. It goes suddenly from I'm talking casually in a conversation to and now I am writing a song and I would like you to understand what I'm saying, which means they get very precise and there's fairies and there's all kinds of things that don't exist in their lives. But if you keep it like a conversation between you and your friend, then your lyrics are going to ring true with other people, and that's what you're looking for. If you can ring true, it's got to ring true. Like you got to be able to play to your friend, and they don't go, "Hey man, that sounds like bullshit." Or your friend goes, "Hey man, that sounds like us talking," and then it's like, "Oh yeah, that's a good lyric. That natural."
Right. Do you have any songs that you like? People. One of the ones maybe that you wrote that you didn't think much of at the time, but people really respond to it, and you're like, okay, they really like this one. All right, so because they're all kids, right? All the songs
yeah,
are, and,
totally.
and some of
Totally,
them,
and I'm not sure if you guys are like this, but like after I finished a project, I kind of I don't want to play it for a long time. Like
for a long time.
I'm ready to do the next thing. Yeah,
It
but
could be years,
people
because
want it. You're right.
Yeah.
and
Usually,
the thing
I've
is, you hear the mistakes, right? Like the things that bothered you, you hear them for a long time. It takes a long time to be able to come back to it and hear it with fresh ears, where you're like, you're not worried about these. And I know Paul's saying he wants mistakes, but there's certain things that happen that you're just like, yeah, it's not really what I had in mind, and
I don't want
whatever.
every mistake. I just want
Right,
some.
right. So
But
when you're
but I'm like
fresh,
that too. I'm like I'm
Or
getting
you
through a
become a
record.
more
I'm already no. I'm already. I get through a record and I'm already looking forward to the next record.
yeah. Or I was gonna say, or you become more sophisticated guitar player, and you said, "Wow, I can't believe I played that like that. I should have done this." But that's the beauty of playing that same song out 5 or 10 years later, because then you can change it up. You don't want to play it exactly the way you played 10 years prior. You want to make it fresh and interesting, and make it maybe even a little more modern and reflective of who you are at that moment.
this is true.
That is one of the things about staying in touch with your own music is as you age, how you feel about how you play it changes in surprising ways.
Surprising ways, like name one
Right.
of the surprising things for you, Paul. Like a song that maybe you
Well,
play
I'm
now and it's just
61 now, so when I listen to Jet Black and Jealous songs from when I was 27, I think, oh, I'd like to just give this kid a punch in the nose and tell him to grow up.
right. He needs to grow up. What's he complaining about? My God, things aren't that
What are you,
bad.
little whiner? Stop complaining. Stop drinking so much whiskey.
Stop complaining. I definitely feel like stop complaining about myself sometimes when I look at some of my old stuff these days, because I know after some things that have happened in my life, I've chilled out way. I was a little
You
bit
know,
more high strung.
I'm joking, but to be honest, I really do feel like what John Lennon once said when they said, "What's your favorite song you've written?" And he said, "I feel like every song I've written is a continuation of the first song, and I'm going to keep writing that same song until I die." And that's really what it is. When I go back, I think how innocent, and that's lovely, and I can see that it led to this album, and it led to that experience. And they're the musical postcards I left to myself when I was young, so that I could remember when I'm old, and I do.
Hmm.
What inspires you, Kat, when you get a new song idea? How does it happen these days? Because I get them less these days, and I'm just curious if you're able to keep finding inspiration and how you find inspiration to write.
It was hard during the lockdown because I think I get it from the energy of being out and amongst people and in in the world, really. And when we all had to just shut down, I thought, well, I'm going to really write a lot of music in this shutdown. And I really needed that connection, with other people to do.
I
So
agree.
it
Speaking of
is
which,
hard.
when you do a record on your records, are you playing everything, or do you have a band?
I know I have a band. Yep. I do write songs. Sometimes like when we had horns on a song, I'll sing the horn lines and they're like, "Oh, you mean this?"
Uh,
And then they make it sound infinitely better. But yeah. Yeah. I
and
try
that's, I
to I
mean, to me,
try
that's
to understand and
I
yeah.
love having great players play my songs. Doing stuff that I couldn't have done. That's
I
great
wouldn't have
when you
even
have
thought
that.
to
Right.
do, right? Wouldn't even thought to do. I mean,
Right.
that's always a fun thing is when somebody comes up with something like, holy smoke, that's better than anything I would have ever told you to
Well,
do.
like I was
Mhm.
making a record with the Roadshow, and Carlo Nuccio is one of the greatest drummers New Orleans ever produced. I've hired him for the first time. We've known each other since we were kids. It's the first time working together. And I walk into the studio, and he's talking with Matt, like they're huddled together. And as soon as I walk in, they stop talking, and so I know they were talking about me. And Carlo looks up in that brash way, goes, "So, how you want me to play this first song?" I said, play whatever idea you like. And he goes, "Well, I got 15 of them." I said, "Great, pick your favorite one and go with it." And Matt looked at him and said, "I told you." Like, I'm not going to tell somebody how to play my song in the studio. If I have great players and a guy comes up to me and says, "What are you playing guitar?" I say, if I knew that, I'd have played it myself and saved the money. Just play what you want to play, man.
Right? Sometimes I have specific ideas. Every once in a while, I have something that is groove dependent, and so the groove needs to be a certain way for it to sort of work. But for the most part, I try to get inspired by what other people bring to it, if possible. Now, I have been in situations where I actually
Uh,
go, I'm not going to use that part. I'm just going to have to bring
of
somebody
course,
else
of
in,
course,
and it's just not
of
working for
course.
me or whatever. But
Everybody has that.
right.
Hey, Kat, do you have a steady group that you work with, or do you each project go, I'd like to work with this person or that person?
Um, each project is sort of different, but I do play in a band regularly that we do a lot of covers and things, a lot of jam band type stuff. So we'll take well-known songs and we make them our own, and we just extend the jams, get experimental. It's a lot of fun.
I
Sounds
do
like fun.
love that. There's too many cover bands that just sort of try so hard to make it, whereas I just enjoy the songs, right? So you just play the song to whatever
Yeah,
fits with the instrumentation you have that night, and I know
yeah,
Paul's the same way. He'll play
yeah,
covers of songs. You won't even realize it's a cover until he gets to a certain lyric, and you're like, oh shit, he's doing somebody
exactly.
else's song. I see now.
Yeah.
And so, how has the pandemic affected your gigging? I mean, has it cut some gigs out of your life? Or?
Oh, for sure. We had to stop for a long time, but as soon as summer comes, and Chicago's so nice in the summer, we've been playing a
Yes.
lot of outdoor shows.
Oh,
Really,
good.
that's awesome to hear.
Yeah,
Good crowds
yeah.
coming, like people showing up and happy to be out.
I think especially, yeah, especially when things started to open up again, and April or so, yeah, people were they miss it, and I think they didn't realize how much they missed it until we didn't have it. Um,
Yeah.
and which is great. You that's where you get your energy from when you're on
Hmm.
Oh,
stage,
yeah.
and you can't ask for
Absolutely.
more than that.
Are they doing the vaccination? Because
Something you said.
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh,
No, no, you go
no,
ahead.
I
You
was
were
going to say something Paul said earlier made me, the reporter in me. I'm always the one asking questions, so it's really hard not to. But I do have a question I want to throw out. Um, you know, uh, these studies, like on Deezer and Spotify, that suggest we stop discovering new music around age 30. Have you guys heard of that?
no.
Essentially, that what you were in your early teens when a song was first released, it'll be the most popular among your age group, a decade later or something. And if you find new music, it doesn't elicit the same strong response because the brain releases dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin or whatever and other happy chemicals. Um, and this happens for everybody, but during our adolescent years, our brains are going through a lot of changes, and that paired with hormones, the more we like the song, the more that these chemicals are flowing, and like that's what we want to hear all the time. But I just don't, for me anyway, I'm always discovering new music. I'm not like stuck in what I was listening to in college.
I
What
don't
about you
seek
guys?
out new music. I don't go looking for it like I did when I was young. But and I hear a lot of new music that I just go, either I've heard it before or I never want to hear it again. But there's, somebody gets through, that's exceptional. Like a few years ago, my friend Megan in South Carolina turned me on to Frank Turner, and it was an explosion in my life. He changed the way I thought about playing gigs. I went out there like I was 30 again and just road dogged for 2 years. Turns out I'm not 30, but it was his book and his songs were so incredible. He was as literate as Elvis and as angry and punk as Joe Strummer. All on an acoustic guitar that expanded into bands, that expanded into, he's got a nice career. So when I see somebody that special, or Brandy Carlisle, with that clear vision as a songwriter and that beautiful voice and that sense of community within her band, I guess in short, no, I don't stop finding new music to be inspired by. Uh, I'm I don't I'm not as compelled to either find it or create it as I was when I was young. That doesn't mean you don't do it, because you do it because you're compelled, not just because, oh, I feel like doing something. No, something eats away at you and says, you better write me or I'm going to drive you crazy. And then you go and write it.
I think as musicians, we probably find, I think it works differently on us, because I do know what you're talking about. And funny thing is like when I was 14, 15, 16, I was listening to music that I just can't listen to now. I was listening to stuff, and although I found it fun, if it came on now, I wouldn't even finish. I'd probably go, oh, look how cute. I haven't heard that in forever, and switch the channel to the next thing. But, I mean, because I could think of things that have come on, Ryan Adams, Ray LaMontagne, things that have a huge effect on me that I didn't discover until 10 years ago. Just discovered the Wood Brothers not long ago, and was like, oh my God, these guys are amazing. Obviously, I picked up one of their tunes, that moved me. So I don't know. I think as musicians, maybe because we're, in the business and used to music and actually view and hear music differently, then unfortunately we hear music a little differently than just people that are listening to music.
Well, and plus, like when I hire young musicians like Shamar Allen, when I first started working with him 15 years ago, he was still in his early 20s, and I would go to play a guitar part on a song, as he'd go, Uncle Paul, that's 70s funk style. You can't play it like that. You got to play it like modern. I'm like, what's modern? And apparently, hip hop modern is a pretty straight guitar thing. It's just not given much rhythm, because it's a lot of space, and the beat is given the percussion that an active guitar hand would have given.
Because it's syncopated. They're doing it with drum machines, so all the beats are syncopated to a very specific tempo.
But the guitar parts aren't part of the percussion anymore. In rock and roll that I grew up with, the guitar part drove the band along with the drums. It was the rhythm guitar. You drive the band. And this was more like you are a part of a pastiche in the background, and try not to do something that stands out, because the beats and the bass and the melody, for that matter, will have the percussion in it. The melodies in hip hop that was one of the first things I learned from Shamar. It was like, Uncle Paul, it's hip hop. It's got to be like this. And I was like, wow, that's sort of like why you don't need me to play a lot of guitar, because if I sing like that, it'll be rhythmic. So it's just different. It was an education. And right. You learn things by playing with old people. You learn things by playing with young people. And I keep trying to learn things.
I wonder about, because of I kind of think of it as video game music sometimes, some of the newer music, just because of the fact that you do a better job making it with a computer than you do trying to actually play it. So to me, a lot of it, winds up being video game music. I spent a lot of time with acid loops myself and learned how to do some really cool things that are just, they become hypnotic, because it just happens over and over and over again. And
that's
move things over the top.
Completely not interested in anything remotely like that.
Right. Well,
first of all, you lost me halfway through with the tech talk, and then you got into loops that just go on and on. And all I'm thinking is, I don't want a loop that goes on and on. I want a song that gives me a story and gets over with, so I can get to the next one.
Yeah, but most of the time, these loops just go on and on and on. They just kind of,
I know, and I'm happy for the people that write them.
enjoy
I'm happy
this.
for people
Right.
that listen to it and enjoy it. I hope they have the proper drug that makes it even better.
There probably is a drug involved.
Yeah.
Pfizer might make it too. I don't know. It could be a Pfizer drug that helps you enjoy this music. I'm not sure. Hey,
I'm
look
not
at
sure.
us. We did a whole show. Is there anything you want to tell us about? Anything coming up that you think you have any? I mean,
Yeah,
you say you're
we
playing a
didn't
lot.
let you talk nearly enough.
No, we didn't. But
Oh my gosh, I talked plenty. No, I mean, I heard you guys talking about Charlie Watts earlier, and I spent a lot of time yesterday listening to him. And
Ah,
I really appreciated how he made the rock music of the Stones swing and bounce, and that's because of, like you said, Paul, his jazz influence. You know, he listened to, Art Blakey and Chico Hamilton and Art Taylor growing up, and he was heavily influenced by them. And I mean, he never had music lessons. I read yesterday.
isn't
He
that
just
amazing?
learned by playing along to those jazz records. It's just
I just found that out too. I
incredible.
always
And
assumed he had less.
yeah,
well, neither
yeah.
one of you two guys had
And
lessons, and
and
y'all are pretty good. I don't know. Just
well,
saying.
I did have that Old Town School lesson.
Gotcha.
But you know, and to just say one more thing about Charlie. Charlie, like I know him personally. Now he sort of was willing to lead by following, if that makes sense.
Right.
And that's what gave the band their distinctive sound, right? A sort of rhythmic drag, because he played with minimal motion and often slightly behind the beat, right?
Which jazz guy does.
And exactly. And that was the magic, right, of the Stones, and it's hard to duplicate. People try, and he had to follow Keith. Keith is a very confident and stubborn player, and Charlie, he wasn't self-serving. He did what we should all aspire to do, was to make people around us better.
Yes.
Interesting.
Really.
And by the way, I mean, Keith, he was one of the ones that actually wound up on a lot of the Stones, because Keith would work with him often to come up with a groove, and then, tell everybody else, fit in where you can. But, here it is. And even things like Street Fighting Man, they did that on a cassette deck, which is why it sounds the way it does. But they were doing a demo late at night one night.
Wow.
And so they never could get that was the other thing I learned from the Stones was, don't be afraid to, if you find the groove, that magic groove, use it. Don't worry about what it sounds like, just that's the one. So that's the take, let's use it. And we did that a lot on our early stuff. If we had a demo, there's a few songs, like one of our songs, Jezebel, is a demo, but we never could get the same feel again.
That's
so
one of my favorites. It's got such a great feel. I didn't know that. That's really
so that
great.
was the demo version of it. That's why you hear all the crazy stuff in it, because you can hear my
But it's
kids
so loose.
running through
it's
it.
so
Right.
loosey-goosey,
And
It's
it's
great.
so loose, and it felt wonderful. And we realized, you know what? Who cares? It feels great, and that's the whole point of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get across emotion, and I love that about the Stones. You find stuff. A lot of their stuff sounds crazy, comparatively. You compare it to the Beatles sound-wise, and you're like, wow, they just didn't have the same sound. But the Beatles would do things 100 times. The Stones would just
Right.
do it till they felt it, and then we're done. No matter what version of it is, it feels good.
Two very different bands.
Yes, two very different bands with
So,
different.
Kat, before we wrap up the show, because we've gone over time, which we love doing, would you tell us any gigs or any albums planned? Anything you got going on? Any stories you're writing?
Well, I'm any what stories? I really do. That's what I'm gonna do if we get shut down again. I'm gonna finish this album I'm working on. But I know I'm playing out a lot in the next couple of weeks. 2 shows this weekend. One's private. Another one is in Glenview at a brewery called 1090.
Nice.
It's just a local brewery, and then a couple of shows like in Highwood we're playing. There's a new distillery called 25 Mile. It's gorgeous. You should look into playing there, Paul. They have a nice stage. They make their own vodka, bourbon, tequila, gin, and it's just
Tequila.
great sound system. And they open these huge doors, and you can play out, and your music goes onto the street, and people hear it, and they just come in. So I love
Sounds
that.
cool.
I love
That's
that
great.
sort of kind of like Bourbon Street, right? You walk down the street and you hear something, you're like, oh, maybe. In the old days.
Well, there's a brewery here in New Orleans on
Um,
Chapatoulas, Paul, that does the same thing. The one they were doing
Yeah,
shows. We did a
Nola,
show.
right? The one
I think it was
Brewing?
Nola Brewing Company.
I
Yeah.
played there back when CJ Shinley used to C.J. Solomon used to book it. Remember C.J.? He was a great guitar player.
Yeah.
And he was booking songwriters to do sets, but he was also booking like a songwriter in the round thing. It was really fun. He lives in Puerto Rico now.
Hey, look, Chicago Lou's going to come see
And
you.
Hey, there you go, Kat. Some of my friends
Chicago Lou.
Yes.
I got to hook up with him for sure.
He'll spread
and also,
the word,
Mike,
too.
next time I'm in New Orleans, which is cool. When I'm in New Orleans next, you promised you're going to come over and we're going to jam on my porch, right?
Paul, you too. You going to come jam on the porch with us?
Sure. I'm officially singing again.
Yeah. We should all get together and have a little session. She keeps threatening to come down here, and then something else happens with the pandemic, and it's like, yeah, I guess I'm not going to be there this week, but we'll be. I totally understand.
Hey man, a day at a time, a breath at a time, a song at a time, and we'll get through this.
I think we started planning this back in March or something, right? That we'll get together and do this thing. It was supposed to be March. And,
yes.
But something happened, and of course now Jazz Fest is not happening. And oh, by the way, Griff is still coming to town during Jazz Fest, and I think he's still going to play a date. Just putting that out there. Suddenly I remember.
Oh, I might have to get in touch with him.
Yeah. So maybe y'all can do something together too. So going out, I'm going to play. I was lucky enough last year. We did a song together with. I sent some tracks to her, and she, lovely. And we did a Jim McCormick song, which, as we all people who listen here know Jimmy, because he's part of the Wright brothers. And so thank you, Michael. Yeah. So look at that. You got another. Michael's going to go out with Luis. They're going to go check it out.
Yeah, Michael Sterl, another big music fan up there. He'll come see you play, Kat.
Oh, good.
Hey, you might have picked up a couple
Thank
fans.
You guys.
That'd be awesome. So you guys get a chance to hear her now playing with us. Not necessarily beaten path, but almost home. You were going to say something, Kat?
No, I was just going to say thank you very much for inviting me to your coffee hour.
Yes.
Cheers.
I
And,
like your cup, by the way.
I'm impressed that. Oh yeah. I'm impressed that artists like yourselves can be very chatty at 9 a.m. Usually it takes me, until afternoon is when I get chatty.
Gotcha.
But, hey man, great show.
Young.
Keep it up.
I'll let you in on a little secret. We both he and I get up at 6. Right.
Yeah, I get up at 5.
Yeah, so we're already 3 hours into our day by the time,
Oh my gosh.
But Chicago Lou said, "But you're married, Mike."
I think he's talking to Michael Sterl. Let's do this. So and so is Kat, by the way. She's married as well. We're not supposed to say that because musicians aren't supposed to be married ever in their lives. But
You're just supposed to be musicians.
Just supposed to
play
be
her
musicians.
song.
That's right. They just go and play their music. They're never
No,
married.
I'm telling you, play her song.
Oh, I'm gonna play her song. This is Jim's song.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
Here we go, and we're moving on.
All right, bye guys.
Bye. See you next time.
Bye,
How do
Kat.
I make this work, though? Do you guys have
Bye
any?
guys, thank you.
You're welcome.
I
See you
cannot
later,
help,
Kathy.
Mike.
Pleasure. Here we go.
Have you ever tried to wait up through the night for somebody to come home? And on the way you find you have lost your mind. You're the one who's all alone. If you ever wanna stop your waiting, call me out, I'll come and we can trade in the tears for the good times, ours for yours and mine. Boy, don't you know I wanna see you so much. I've been around the lakeside calling. I've been up where the cold wind blows, and I want you to take me home with you.
On the way to 5, burn bright and high. We'll keep our bodies oh so warm. I will love you down, even be your clown, shelter you from the storm. If you wanna know the way life can be, call me out, I'll come and we can go see. Tears for the good times, ours for yours and mine. Girl, don't you know I wanna see you so was shaped like a cat. It was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between